Web scraping in Power Automate for desktop is very easy. Let me show you. So I prepared a case for you today, but let me show you how easy it is to do web scraping first, and then we'll move on to the case. So here I'll have my Amazon. This is a very good example page because we have loads of data to extract. This could be any system based on web in your company. So for example, I go to Amazon.com, I click this drop down, books, and then I search for something. Here I will just search for Excel, and then I want to scrape these results out to, for example, an Excel sheet. Let me show you how easy it is. So I go to Power Automate for desktop and create a new flow. I will call this Amazon Web Scrape like this, and then I click Create. So here I have a blank canvas in a few seconds. Let me just maximize it here. First, I will have a browser instance, so I'll find a launch new Chrome, or you can pick Firefox or Edge if you prefer. I drag in a launch new Chrome. Usually I want to launch a new instance, but since I already opened up this Amazon Excel, I'll just use this. So if I go back here, so instead of launch new instance, I'll click the drop down, attach to running instance. Here I'll search by title, and if you click this drop down here, you can see my tab results. My tab results I want to scrape is the Amazon.com Excel. I pick that one. This browser instance will get saved in a variable called browser. That is fine. I click save. Now I will do the extraction. So if I go up here in actions again and find a extract data from web page here, make sure you take the one under web data extraction and not the one under data extraction. So I drag this one in. Here I will say web browser instance. That is the browser variable that we just created up here when we launched the new Chrome and attached the tab to this browser instance. To open up the data scraping wizard, simply just open up your browser like this with the results, and now you can see that this live web help opens. Here I can select the elements I can scrape in the entire web page. I can scrape everything, but we want to scrape the structured data here in the results, and that is first the title. If I pick the title, I can see the red border around it, but if I want to get the title, I can also choose the H2 as you can see here, and sometimes you just need to figure out which one you want to use. I think we can go with span, and it's very, very important because we need to tell Power Automate for desktop that we have structured data here. That first, let's say we pick span here, so I'll do that. Right click, extract element value, and take the text here. That one will get it here. You can see this green border dots. That means that we scrape this one here. You can also see it in the live helper. And now the important part comes, because I need to tell Power Automate for desktop that this is a pattern. So I pick this title. And here you can see you can also choose between span and H2. And we need to tell Power Automate for desktop that this is structured. So pick the same one as you did up here. I picked span, so I take span again. I right click, extract element value, and take this text. There you go. Now we extracted all the titles down. Wasn't that smart? So far so good. Now it's very, very easy. I want to take all the authors. And here you can see I can take by, span, and this second author. So I think I need to take the entire line. That will be the div here. So I right click, extract element value again, take the text. Now Power Automate for desktop automatically says, well, you defined a pattern here with the titles. We will just extract the author line automatically for you. We also have a date. We will see how we can delete that one later in this session. Similarly, I also want this first price. I will find the price here. You can see I can take a dollar sign, the dollar, the cents. I want everything, so I'll just mark it. Right click again, extract element value, and take the text here. Now we have that one as well. We will leave it here. I will click finish. And here, if I scroll a little bit down, I can store my data in either a variable or an Excel spreadsheet. For now, we will use the Excel spreadsheet. This will produce an instance called Excel instance. Then I click Save. Now we can run it. So if I do this, we will scrape the results from this web page. Here you go. You can see Excel open down here, and we have our results. That's how easy it is to scrape data in Power Automate for desktop. We have a lot of features, we have a lot of things that we can customize, which I want to show you now by this example. So let me close this one down again. That's it. The first task is to look at the case. So I download the example data here. Let me scroll a little bit down on the course material page here. Go in here and download the data, XLSX. That is where our data is. Let me also move this a bit. I'll place my data on the desktop so I can easily find it. Let's open the data and inspect it. Here you go. So this is an Excel book. We have two sheets in it. We have the Anders Jensen org and the topics. I want to read the topics sheet. Here you can see we have a table with one column and several rows. These are the topics to scrape. I want the Excel, SQL, VBA, Java, and Python. And for each one of these topics here, I'll go to Amazon. And then instead of Excel, I'll search for SQL like this. And I will scrape the results for SQL. I will have all these results. And later on, as it gets more advanced, I also want results from the next pages. That's it. So let's get started. We will divide this robot in several parts. We will have one part that will initialize the robot. Then we'll have one part that will read these topics and store them so we can easily iterate through them, do Amazon searches here, and finally write it all back to Excel. Don't worry, I'll hold your hand step by step. Just do the operations with me. So here I'll have the topics to scrape. I'll read this column and store them into a data table so I can work with it. Let's close down the Excel sheet here. Let me just maximize the browser again, go to my robot and also maximize this. So let's delete these two steps. We will add similar steps later in the robot, but let's build it from scratch. So I mark both steps and press delete. We will create an input variable for our working folder. And since I have mine here on my desktop, I just do this, shift right click, go down to copy as path and click it. Now back to my Power Automate for desktop, go over into input output variable, click the plus sign here and click the input. I will call this file path like this. Then in the default value, I'll paste in the value that I just copied, that is this one. But I'll only use the folder. So I'll do this, I'll delete the end and the quotation mark in the beginning since we don't need that in Power Automate for desktop. I'll just copy this file path as the external name as well, and then I click create. This is great when we want to reuse this or say this changes. Like I move this folder to a new computer. Now build a robot. So I'll do a little bit of commenting because this will be a little bit longer robot, so I'll make a great overview. You could also create subflows, which is a more advanced term, but I just recommend sticking with comments for now. So here I'll have the comment. I'll say initialize started. So here I'll just have my initialization steps. Similarly, I will just copy this, then paste it in, change this started to ended. So all my initialization steps will go in here. First, we will just launch the Excel sheet that we want to store the results in. So go here and then find a launch Excel and drag it in. Here I will just store it into a blank document. That's fine. Our instance will not be visible. And here we can see that the variables produced is called Excel instance. Because we will have two Excel books, we will have one for the topics that we will read, and then we will have another Excel book / instance that we will write the results back to. We will do proper naming so we can easily differentiate it which one is which. So here I'll say Excel instance result like this, and then I click save. So nothing really happens here. We just open up an Excel instance for the results. Now let's read the topics. Similarly, I'll find a new comment for this reading topics started. So I drag this one in. Here I'll say reading topics started like this. Again, I'm lazy. I copy it, paste it back here. Open it and then just say ended like this. So now we can read our topics. And how do we do that? We launch another Excel instance. So let me show you here. So I'll find a launch Excel and drag it in. And now we don't want to open up a blank document, but we want to read the document that we just copied in on our desktop. So if I click this drop down here and open the following document. Since we already have a lot of the document here in our file path variable, I'll use that. So click the X here, find the file path, double click it like this. Now we just need to fill in what the name of our Excel book is named. So I go here, / data XLSX. You should do the same if your file is named the same. That is, if you haven't edited before you downloaded it, or after you downloaded it. Our instance, not visible. We don't want to see what's going on while the robot works. It might be fun in the beginning, but then it gets a little bit boring. We will just open it as read only because the topics, we will not write anything back to the topics. That's it. Then I can click save. Now we want to do a little bit of robustness to our robot. So let me minimize this and open up our data. Because the robot will read the active sheets, well, it's fine here. But if this one is active, then we have a problem. Then we will open that and try to read the topics from here, find the column. It's not there, our robot will fail. So we will make sure that the robot will read this sheet every time this is active. Of course, we can do it if we manually close it down on this one here. But say that we forget it or our colleague have this Excel book open and accidentally close it down here. So we just specify that the active workbook sheet should be topics. Let me show you. So I go back to Power Automate for desktop. Then I'll find a set active Excel worksheet. Drag it in here after the launch Excel. So the Excel instance that we want to look in, that is this Excel instance. And we haven't renamed it yet. That is fine. I will show you how we can rename two occurrences at the same time. So I'll just pick the Excel instance again here. I'll activate the worksheet with the name. And I'll just paste in the name of it, that is topics. I click save. Now we have an Excel book, that is this one here, that is named Excel instance, but we want to do the same naming convention as up here. We could change it in this activity and this activity, but we can go over here and either press F2 or right click, choose rename, and then we can just start writing. I will say Excel instance topics. There you go. It is automatically getting updated in both activities. When we read Excel sheets in Power Automate for desktop, we need a range definition. And that is, let me show you, we need Power Automate to understand that we have Excel data in this range, and we do it with the get first three column row activity. And that one will find the first three column. That one is this one here. And then we can just subtract one from it. Then we'll end over here. Of course, we only have one column here, but we cannot know. Similarly, we don't know how many rows we got. We can easily just add more topics. So we'll find the first three row, which is 7, and then we'll subtract one from it. Let me show you. So I go back to my Power Automate for desktop, get first three, that one went a little bit fast. Make sure you take the get first three column row and not this one up here. I repeat, make sure you take this one here. They look quite similar, but they don't do exactly the same thing. Drag it underneath the set active worksheet. Here I need to pick an Excel instance. And now it's great that we can easily differentiate between these two. I can just pick the topics. That one is this one here. These two produce two variables. Those are the variables that I talked about before. I'll say first three column, and let me just rename this. So I'll say topics. Again, I'll go in here and say topics. Then I can click save. And let me show you. So if I just close this one down, let's try to run the robot. We only open up the two Excel instances, and then we set the active worksheet and get the first three column and row. Here you can see that we have the column number 2, that is fine, that is the first three one, and similarly number 7, that is the first three row. Now we will read from the Excel worksheet. We need to read the topics. So I click the X here, and I'll find a read from Excel worksheet and drag it in here. Here I'll pick my Excel instance. Again, it's the Excel instance topics. That's it. Here I want to retrieve the value of a single cell, or I will take the value from a range of cells. Again, take the range of cells. That is all the topics. The start column, we know that. That is the column A. You can also write in 1, that's up to you. I prefer A since that is the notation we use in Excel, so I don't confuse myself. The start row, that is 1. And now I will take advantage of the two variables that I produced. So I click the X here, because the end column, that is the first three column topics. So I double click that, -1. Again, I just go in here, say -1. So we found the first three column, and then we subtract 1 for it. That is the range of our data. Similarly with the row, just click the X here. First three row topics, take this one here, and again, say -1. Then we scroll a little bit down. Go into advanced. I always recommend going into advanced, and here you can see that we have first line of range contain column names. We have column names, that was the topics to scrape description in the start, so I just take this one here. Now our variables produced is called Excel data. Again, similarly, let's rename it so we know what's going on. This one will be the Excel data, topics, like this. Then I can click save. We can close this Excel instance down again. We will not use it anymore. We have our data in Excel data topics. So I'll go over here and find and close Excel here, drag it underneath here. So the Excel instance to close, that is the Excel instance topics. We will not be saving it. And really, we can't because we open it as read only up here. So that is fine. I click save. Let's try to run our automation, but before we do that, let's just save it so we'll make sure that if something happens, we still have this one going on for us. Then we can click run. So again, we just read the Excel data. That's the thing that we do here. And then we come to the data scraping. So if I go up here in Excel data topics, double click here. Now you can see that we have our data that we want to search for. So I can now search for Excel, SQL, VBA, Java, Python, and this is the header. If we wanted to refer to one of these data rows in the data table, then the first one will be 0, it's 0 indexed. Then the second one will be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it is in programming. You just get used to it. So then I can click close here. Now we are ready to do the actual scraping. The first thing that we will do is to open up an Excel instance and go to amazon.com. That is this address up here, because we want to navigate to this page and do the search by the robot. So let me minimize this again. So up here in the initialization, I will find a launch new Chrome, just as we had before. So this one is done in the initialization. I will launch a new instance. We will not attach it to a running instance anymore. We will launch a new instance. Then I'll just paste in my URL here. That is the amazon.com. And we will produce a browser variable. This one will be the only browser we have, so it's fine that we have it as a browser name. Then I can click save. So now we move to the end, because now the scraping will start. Let's do some commenting so we can easily get back to this workflow whenever we want. I drag in the comment. Here I will say scraping started, like this. and I will say scraping ended. Let me drag this one in. I could also copy it like we did before. Scraping ended, like this. First thing that we will do is to find out which topic do we want to search for, because we have opened up the Amazon. Let me just go to Amazon here. We have opened up the Amazon. Then we want to navigate to books and do a search. And we actually know what we're going to search for because we stored that one here in the Excel instance topics, or in the Excel data topics up here. You can see we want to search for Excel first, and SQL, VBA, Java, and Python. So we find a for each, so we can iterate through this data table and do the searches. So I'll drag in a for each here. So the value to iterate, that is the Excel data topics up here. I click the X here, take the Excel data topics. So every time we move over the data table, that is, we iterate through the data table, then the current row, that will be current item. That will just be a name for reference. We can just change it. So I want to change it to topic. I can either do this, like this. We can actually also delete this percentage sign. Power Automate for Desktop will automatically add it because this is a variable field. Then I can click Save. So now we're iterating through each one of the Excel topics, and we call the current topic for topic. That one is this one. So first we have moved to the Amazon.com. We're here. Then we want to go to the books session, which is here. Let me just go back to the all departments again, because we want to do the search in books only. So then we find a set drop-down list on web page. So I'll say set drop-down list, and make sure you take the web form filling here. Then we drag it into the for each. The browser instance, that is browser, fine. Now we need a UI element for this drop-down. So click this drop-down here, take the add UI element, and now we can find it. Let me move this with the UI picker. And this one is a little bit bigger, but that is this one here. So I press Control, click with the mouse. Now I have my drop-down. So I'll not clear all options. I'll take the select options by name, and then I'll say books. I want to look in the books session. Then I can click Save. Let's just give our UI element a proper name. So if I go over here to UI elements, you can see we have the select all departments. I prefer to have my naming clean. So I right click, rename, and I'll say department drop down, like this. This is just for naming purposes. It's easy to see what this UI element is, nothing else. Then I can go back to my robot. Because now I have selected the books, I can do the search for the topic. So if I go up here, and I'll say populate text field on web page, drag it in here. So if I go back here, so I am in my books. And now I want to write something in here in this field. Back to Power Automate for Desktop. We will create a UI element for the text field. So click the drop down here, then say add UI element. And here you can see it says input text, control, click with the mouse. There you go, we have a UI element. We will now define what we want into the search field. Well, we just want this topic here. So we're referring to this data row. So that is, I click the X here, take the topic. And since there could be more columns in this data row, I just want to make sure that we pick the topics to scrape. So I go in here, then I'll say hard brackets, single quotation marks, and then I type in the header of my Excel table. We only have one column in here, but as I said, we could have more. So I'll say topics to scrape, like this. So this means that we will look in the topic row that we're iterating through here. That one will be Excel, SQL, blah, blah, blah. And then we will say, give me whatever it's in the cell of the topics to scrape column. Then we will populate that into the text field. Then I can click Save. Finally, when we have written something in here, let's say, for example, Excel, I want to click this button over here. So we add a new UI element for that in our click link on web page, this one here, drag it down here. We will go into the browser, Click the drop down, you know the drill, add your element. Find this search one here, Control and click it. We will just do a left click, that is fine. I click save. Now let's just rename these two. I'll press F2 and here I'll say input field. And here that is the search button. Again F2, so I'll just say search button. I do this only because I want to easily differentiate it. I can also see this picture down here, but then it's easy to maintain in the future. What do you think about the quality of this lesson? Please post it in the comment below. That will help me a lot. Thank you. So now we're just searching for the topics. The actual scraping has not begun yet, but let's see if this one works. So I'll do all the searches, not in this one, but in a new instance. Let me go back to Power Automate for Desktop and start the automation. Let's see if it works. We can easily debug. Now we open up Amazon here. We are setting it to books, Excel, we click the search one. These ones are the result, books, SQL. It looks like it worked. Now we can iterate through each one of the topics and come to the data that we want to scrape. This is very important in web scraping because we want to make sure that we are on the right page. One other thing that we can do to make it more robust. Usually, as you saw it here, we just did the searches, so we just cleaned this field and then typed in the next one. Usually what we want to do is to navigate to amazon.com after each search, and we will do this books, blah, 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 in each one of them. Then we will know that each time we do something, then we are at the same page, nothing or little can go wrong. We saw it's not the problem here, but it can be. So find a go-to web page like this, drag it in inside the for each. So for each topic, we will go to a URL. So I'll say https amazon.com. This is just to make it more robust. Similarly, when we automate in applications, we also want to move to the start page each time, or at least the same page. This is to make sure that we start at the same place for each transaction, which is topic in this place. So I just click save here. So before we scrape, then for each one of these topics, we will add a new worksheet into our Excel instance result up here. That is, we want to have a separate Excel sheet for each one of the scrapings, that is Excel, Secret, and all that. So I'll find a add new worksheet here and just drag it in the start of the for each. So I add a new worksheet. The instance we want to target, that is the result, and the worksheet name. The worksheet name will be named the same one as the topics here. So I'll click the X here and I'll say topic. Do I want to store it as first or last? I want to store it as last, and then I click save. So now I have a new active worksheet called topic that I want to store my result in. So now let's do the actual scraping that we saw before. So I'll find an extract data here and take the one on the web data extraction, that is the web extract data from web page. So now we have done the search, we can do the extraction. To make this work, as you remembered, we need to bring up a result page, and here I don't have the results, so let me do it manually. If your robot has ran, you can just do it like this. You need to have the results and you need to be in the books department. So now I can say again, just as we did in the beginning, I'll take the span of this title, right click, extract element value, and take this text. That one took the first title. Similarly down here, I'll right click, extract element value, and take the next one. So now I have all the titles, then I need the authors. Again, I'll take this div. I know I get the by, and then Michael Alexander, and then I get the date with me as well. I'll deal with that later. So let me right click here, extract element value, and take the next one. So now we have the author as well. Then we can just have these prices here. I'll take this one here and have the prices. So now we easily extracted all our data that we wanted. We can just click finish. So we are scraping from the browser instance. We have a time mode of 60, that is fine. The variables produced, let's just rename that to Amazon results. So I'll do this, I'll say Amazon results like this, and then I click save. So now we have extracted the result. Then for each one of these extractions, we will write it back to our Excel instance result because we created a new sheet with the right topic name. And to do so, I'll just find a write to Excel worksheet. Take it down here. We're writing out the result now. So the Excel instance, that is the Excel instance result. What value do we want to write? I want to write the Amazon results. So I click the X here, go up here, Amazon results. I will say, where do I want to write it? That is the first cell, that is on the specified cell. So here I will say column, that is column A, and the row 1. So that is in the beginning of it. Then I click save. So now I'll just close it and make sure that I save it under the right name. So in the end, find a close Excel, drag it down here in the after the scraping ended. So I will close down the Excel instance result. Then I want to save it. So I want to save this document as, and I have the file path up here. So I'll choose the file path. That is the file path for my data. It's here. Then I'll say backslash, and I can just say results.xlsx like this. Then I can click save. So now let's try to run the automation. I can close down this one Amazon here so we don't have a lot of things going on. Then I run the automation. So now it will take a little bit more because now we will do 5 searches and we will scrape each one of the results back to our Excel result book. So we are scraping we are doing the searches. We can't really see if we are scraping the results, but we are, trust me, I'll show you that in a few seconds. That's it. Let's go to our desktop and open up the results. Here you can see we now have 5 nice scrapings. That's how easy it is to do multiple scraping. But we need something more. We need headers of each one of these. So we have a title, an author, a price. Then we want to scrape the first 3 pages. This is only the first page. And finally, you can see here we have this by Eric Matthews, then this one here, and then May the 3rd. So we only want the author. Let's fix these things one by one. The first thing I want to do is to have headers on. We could have done it in data scraping, but since this will be a little bit more advanced, we will have 3 pages. We will do it in a variable. So first I will go back to my Amazon web scrape here. And then right after I added a new worksheet, I'll find a set variable here, drag it in. So this is just to show you how easy it is to add a data row to a data table. This is also very important. So up here, I'll give it a name. I'll just say headers result like this, and then the value. So to add a data row, then we will do the percentage sign. I can do some spaces in between. Nothing will happen with the spaces. It's just easier to read. Then I'll have the curly brackets like this. Then I have the hard brackets. That is in the end and the start and in the end. So again, I'll have the hard brackets and the curly brackets here. So now I can write my data. The first one, that was the title. So in single quotation marks, I will say title. Then I'll say comma. Similarly, I will say author in single quotation marks, then another comma. Then I'll have the price like this. Then we can click save. So now we have a variable with this. Let's add it to our Excel sheet here. So I find a write to Excel worksheet again, drag it after the set variable. So the Excel instance that we want to target, that is still this Excel instance result. So I'll pick that one here. And since we just added this topic sheet, this is the active one. That is fine. We will add headers to each one of these. So here I'll say value to write. I will have the headers result. That one is this one here. Then I'll just write it in column A, row 1, I'll click save. So now we have headers on, but we don't want to overwrite it down here. So what we do here before we write to it, we find the first 3 row and column in this Excel instance result again here. So we know where to write. Let me show you. So I'll find a get first 3 row column here, drag it underneath here. And this is again the Excel instance result. And here, first 3 column, and then we'll say results, like this, first 3 row results. Again, we do this because we want to easily see what's going on. And now here, so we are writing these Amazon results back, but since we already have something in the first row, we could of course write number 2 here, but we will use this get first 3 column in a little while, so that's why we use it. Go in here. So instead of picking the row 1, delete that. And now we will simply just write out the scraped results into the first 3 row. So if I go down to the X here, I'll find the first 3 row in the results, that is this one here. So now we will just write in the first 3 row, and we only have 1 row in here. So that's what I said, we could have written in 2 here, but we will use this approach in a little while. You'll see why it comes very handy. So now I will close this results sheet again, then I will run my automation. So we're doing the exact same thing as before. Now we're just adding headers to our result. So we are scraping the results, we're writing it back, and we will see that we have added nice headers in a few seconds. So SQL, one of my favorites, also a good one to learn as an RPA developer. VBA, also great because we can automate Excel. Java, well, we don't use that a lot as RPA developers, so I cannot recommend that. At least for the books to read, it's always nice to know a little bit of coding. Python is great when we want to do scripting. So let me go back here. Now we inspect the results. So now we have title, author, price, and we have it for each one of these here. So now we fixed that problem. Now I will scrape the first 3 pages. So what I'll do here, let me close down the result. So for each one of these results, I'll scrape the first page. Then I will click the next button, scrape the next one, and so forth, just for the 3 ones here. So I'll have a loop. That is, I will have a loop that will run 3 times and extract the things. So if I go back to Power Automate for desktop, let's talk about where we want the loop. Well, we only want to do the search once. That is, here we click the link, then we do the search. Then we want this, extract data from web page, then we want to extract it. Then we want to write the results to Excel. Now here we will have a click next button, and then we will go up here, extract the new results. And now this comes in handy because now we know where to write it. We actually already solved for that one. So we will store the new results in Amazon results. Then we know where we want to write them. That is 18 rows below or something similar. We'll write it, click the next button. So let's solve it together. Find a loop, and you will just have the ordinary loop, not the loop condition, but the loop. Drag in the loop right after the click link on web page. You can see it here. We want to start the loop from 1. We will end at 3. So that is 1, 2, 3. We want to increment it with 1. Then I can click save. Now we just need to drag in the extract data from web page into the loop, the get first 3 column row, write to Excel worksheet, and we will have a click link on web page here. So I'll find a click link here, click link on web page and drag it in. Make sure you are in the loop. So here I'll add a UI element for the next button. That will be this one here. So I go back here, click the drop down, add UI element. Here I will find the next one here. I can pick this one or this one. I'll just take this one. So I'll say Control, click with the button. Now we have that link. Let us click Save. So one thing that we will do is to go to the UI elements and see if we have done it right. Here we have an anchor called Next. First, I'll just rename it. So right click, rename, then say Next. We can also inspect the HTML behind it. So if I double click here, you can see that this is the address of the UI element of the next button. All this. We don't want to change nothing if it works, but if it doesn't work, we'll go back here and fix it. So now I can just go outside. We have it here. Let me close down these results again and start our automation. So now we should get 3 pages with results in our Excel book. I run it again. So we launch just as before. We launched a new Chrome. We read the topics. We now do the searches. Now it will take a little bit longer because we will do the Excel, then we will extract it, go to the next page, then extract that. You can see up in the address bar that we are on page 3 now, page 4. Then we will have the SQL. We will also do the results from that one. Do here, VBA. So we will only do the 3. That is because we clicked the link on the web page in the end, so we will not scrape the last one. So we will get the first 3 pages, even though that we navigate to the 4th. That's it. Let us go back and inspect the results. There you go. We have now 48 results from each one of the topics. Wasn't that easy? Now we could do a little bit of dynamic naming. That is, we don't want to call it results because that will result in the results will get overwritten from time to time. Let me close this one here. So I will go back to Power Automate for Desktop. And then in the initialization, I will have a get current date and time because I want to use this in the naming of it, because I know that the current date and time, if I go down to seconds or milliseconds, that is quite unique. It will not get overwritten. So I'll use this one here, get current date and time. I'll find it up here in the initialization. Here I will get current date and time and store it in current date time. Fine, I'll click Save. Then I will convert this to a text. So I'll find a convert date time to text here and drag it here. This is so I can use it in my file naming just below. So the date time to convert, that is the current date time. So I click here and I scroll a little bit up. I'll say current date time. The format to use, I will use a custom format. I can choose this one under standard, but I want to customize it. So I'll say custom. Here I will say, first I want the year, that is 4 Ys. I'll come back to this code in a few seconds. Then I want the month, that is 2 Ms. I want to have the day, 2 days. Then I want the hours, that is 2 H. Or if I want it in 24-hour format, I will take 2 big H's, like this. Then I want the minute and the seconds. I don't think my robot will run during second intervals, so I will just have it here, but you can add milliseconds if we want. These ones are very easy to understand if you know what's going on, and you can probably also see it just by looking at it. But if you want to know more, you can go to Google, and then you can search for .NET custom date time format like this. You can pick this one here and scroll a little bit down. Because these ones here, like the 2 Ds, that is the day of the month in this format 01. If we only have written a single D, then it will have look like this with the first 9 dates of the months. Similarly, you can scroll down. Here are the month and so forth. Play a little bit around it. This is important. You'll use this page a few times in the beginning at least until you start remembering these codes. It's very easy, don't worry. So now I have my formatted date time. I click Save here. Then I go down. So now I will use this formatted date time in my save the Excel document as. So if I go in here, then right before the results, I'll put in the date. So I'll say X here. Then I will say formatted date time, that one is here, double click. Now you can see this variable is right before the results. Then I can click save. Now let's try to run the automation. Again, we will do the same thing. The only thing that we changed here is the current date and time. We will use that as a name for our results. I'll fast forward this so you don't have to look at it again. We are done. And let me minimize this again, this page here. Now you can see that we have a new Excel book with all our results. Nothing has changed. It's just the naming. So we don't overwrite any results. We want a full report from each time the robot runs. Finally, we want to solve this. This is not very nice to look at, and we can solve it in different ways, but I want to show you how you can solve it in the data scraping wizard. This is one by Eric Matthews. We only want Eric Matthews here. So let me copy this one here first. Then I'll go back to my browser. You should now go to Regex 101. Regex, that is a series of characters that defines a search pattern. We will use it here. It's advanced, but it's not complicated, and I want to introduce you to it here in the end of this lesson, since this is a very important concept in RPA development. You will use this a lot. Just follow me. So go to regex101.com. So here's my test string. That is this Eric Matthews. I want to define a pattern that only takes this Eric Matthews out. And I can do these patterns up here. The first thing I'll do is to look after the by, and then I'll pick everything up. So what I'll do here is have a parentheses, then a question mark, then this one here, then an equal sign, and a parentheses end. So now I haven't really defined what I want to look behind. You can also see a little guide here if you want to know what's going on. So if I go in here, I now want to say, I want to look behind the by. So after the equal sign, I'll say by. Now you can see that I look behind the by this purple one here. Then I'll say space. Right now, I don't pick nothing up. I'll just say where I want to start. So if I jump outside the parentheses, then I'll have a dot. That means that I can have any character. Now I'm picking up things. Then I'll say a star. That means I'll pick everything up right after the by. But I only want to pick up the author, so I want to stop here. And the way I can do this is similar to the first one. So a parentheses, then a quotation marks, now only an equal sign, parentheses end. Inside this, after the equal sign, I'll say, I want this, I'm not sure what it's called, this one in English. English is not my first language, so I want this one here. And then to escape it, because this actually means something in regex, then I'll have a backslash like this. That's it. And I also want to remove the two spaces. So I go over here and have the two spaces. Now this is an irregular expression, but let me just move a little bit ahead. This one will work here, as you can see. But if I jump to the second one, you can see that we now have two ones here. Let's see that if it also works here. So if I paste it in here, it does. It takes the author here as well. And let me just show you where it doesn't work. If I go down here to Francois Cholet, copy this one here, paste it in here, we are not picking it up. That is because we only have one space after the author. We could trim it in Power Automate Desktop, or we could make an OR. So if I just make a parenthesis around my first expression here, then I'll have this one here. And now this actually means an OR. So now I can do another expression. So I can say, look here or here. And if I just mark everything here, copy it and paste it after the OR sign. So now I'll just remove one of these spaces, and now I will also pick up the second author. So I'll use this pattern for now. This is just an introduction to see how you can use regex in the extraction wizard. It's very advanced, but it will be very helpful that you just got introduced to it. Now you know that it exists. We can also use it to extract emails. We can extract every string that we want with these patterns. It's not that complicated, and let me show you how we'll incorporate it. So you need to have an Amazon result page open like this. Then I go back to my Power Automate for desktop. I open up the extract data from web page here. Now the wizard will open in a few seconds when I open up the results here. If I go to the advanced settings, here you can see the CSS selector for each one of the extractions. So the first one, that was the title. Then we had the author with the date and the CSS selector here. Here you can see something called Regex. Bingo. So if I go over here, just paste in my Regex pattern, I click OK. You can already see that we have the nice author down here. So if I click finish here, I'll click save. I can run my automation. Let me close down this one. We don't really need it. Then I can click run. This regex pattern, we could refine it even more to make it 100% robust. But this was just an introduction, so you can see how easy it is to fill with regex here in Power Automate for desktop, this time in the extraction wizard. There you go. Let's just inspect the results again. So these one are the latest ones. Here you have them, and we have nice authors. We have it without dates or by with anything. We have it nicely formatted. In this lesson, you learned about advanced web scraping. We saw how we could do dynamic scraping. We saw how we can use regex, and we did some advanced Excel work. The next lesson is on the screen. You can just click it.